Coming up next on Ministry Spotlight.
Where is your tabernacle? Your tabernacle is on your knees. Where is my tabernacle? My tabernacle is in my prayer closet. Where is my tabernacle? My tabernacle is in the deliverance of my mindset. Where is my tabernacle? My tabernacle is in the opening of my mouth. Where is my tabernacle? My tabernacle is in my praise and my worship. Where is my tabernacle? My tabernacle is in my prayer life. Where is my tabernacle? My tabernacle is in my faith, because I can't do it without him. Verse 1, 4 through 11. Once again, that's 1 Samuel, verse 1, 4 through 11. And it's a common text. It's the story of Hannah. And we all know the wonderful woman of Hannah. And we know her for her prayer. And what I'm going to do on tonight is break down what God is saying to us through Hannah. So each year, Hannah and her family traveled to Shiloh to make sacrifices and to fellowship together. It was a thing that they did all the time. It wasn't anything new. But this year was different. It was her time. It was Hannah's time for something different this year. Hannah reached a place in her process that caused her to break away from all that was familiar in order to have a true encounter with God and bring difference in her life. Now, when I was reading the text, it didn't say that she had any ailments. It didn't say that she had any natural issues, but it said that God had closed Hannah's womb. And I read that and I said, God, why did you close Hannah's womb? Now, as a woman, that's one of our strengths, is to give birth. And I said, God, why did you take that away from Hannah? What was the reason that you would close her womb? And now let's break it down. What is the womb? The womb is a place of gestation. Gestation, a time of development before birth. So we can't just birth any old thing. There has to be a time period of it getting ready, and that's where in the womb is the readying place. And what does the womb symbolize for us? It symbolizes all possibilities and every potential. The womb is a place of bearing in abundance. So I said, God, why did you close that from her? And God said, because I wanted to connect prayer, the opening of her mouth, to the opening of her womb. Now you would think, now how is the mouth connected to the womb? He said, I needed to connect the opening of her mouth to now the opening of her womb. And he broke it down for me, and he said the ending of her silence was what brought forth the miracle. It's when she decided to open her mouth that the miracle came forth. And it's in the opening of our mouths that we'll see some change comes in our life. It ain't in our bank accounts. It's not in our relationships. It's not in our thought patterns. It's not in our everyday tasks, but it's in the opening of our mouth. It's in what we speak. Now, in the Bible, it says that death and life is in the power of the tongue. Now, what are we speaking over ourselves? What are we declaring over our situations? What are we declaring over our lives? It's in the words that we're speaking. Our words hold power. Our words hold more weight than we think that they hold. So what am I speaking? Am I speaking a promise, or am I speaking pain? Am I speaking wealth, or am I speaking tragedy? What am I speaking over myself? When I open my mouth and I start a new day, do I start it high and holy or low and faulty? What am I saying with my mouth? Go ahead and think about, repeat to yourself, what have you been saying with your mouth? Now, what do? Hannah decided to open her mouth. And it started out with a prayer for us, but she had to get to a certain place to even want to open her mouth and pray. So that's the place that we have to get to. We have to get to a place that says, Father, we have a problem. There's a real issue here, Lord. I can't believe this is still happening to me. Hannah had been unable to birth for a while, and I'm sure she kept thinking, why is it still closed? Why hasn't my womb opened up yet? And we can be having those same thoughts. Why am I still in this same sorrowful place? Why am I still broken? Why am I still without? Why am I still shaking in my boots? Why is the devil still attacking me the same old ways? Why? And we have to say, God, we have to have a talk, because I need you to do something. And what do we need him to do? We need him to turn our pain to seed. And then once he has turned our pain into a seed, that's when we can harvest fruit. And then God, after you let me harvest the fruit, what did Hannah do? She said, I'll give it back to you. So that's the same thing we need to do. God, once you give me fruit, what is the fruit of a womb? That symbolizes a reward. It's the sustenance. And you just got to tap yourself on your chest and say, God, I need a fruit inspection. I need a fruit inspection, because either I'm not birthing nothing, or what I am birthing is rotten and spoiled. So I need a fruit inspection. I need you to look down on my fruit, Lord. And if I'm not harvesting anything, tell me why. And if I am harvesting things that aren't looking too right, that aren't anointed and appointed, that aren't a godly thing, that doesn't look like excellence, I need a fruit inspection. I need you to look down into my heart. I need you to look down into my spirit. I need you to look down into my mind. I need you to look down into my thoughts. I need you to walk down the thoughts of my life, my everyday travels, and inspect my fruit. Inspect what's going on the inside of me. Does it look like you, God? Or is it just looking like flesh? What does it look like to you, God? Inspect my fruit. Look at what you gave me. Did I harvest it well? Did I take care of it well? Did I birth it well? Or did I let it die? Did I birth it well? Or did I let it rotten? Did I birth it well? Or did I give it away too soon? Is it ripe or is it ain't right? What is my fruit looking like? I need a fruit inspection, because what I'm producing now, Lord, is it worthy? Is it worthy to be returned unto you? Because what you blessed Hannah with, it was worthy to come back to you. So is my fruit, what you're putting in my womb, is it worthy to be returned back to you? And I kept on reading a little bit, and God said I needed Hannah to get to a desperate place. A desperate place. Now, when you're desperate for something, that means that you tried a couple other things. When you're desperate for something, that means it wasn't necessarily your first choice. When you're desperate for something, you're at the end of your rope. When you're desperate for something, you've tried and you tried and you tried and you tried and then you tried again. When you're desperate for something, you're willing to do almost anything. When you're desperate for something, you're at the point where if this ain't it, I don't know what is. When you're desperate for something, you'll reach out and touch maybe something you've never thought about before. When you're desperate for something, it drives you to a place that you may have never seen before. When you're desperate for something, it's an attention getter. What does God need to do to get your attention? Are you desperate enough to want to seek for his attention? What is God doing to get you to the place of desperation? You may be upset with God, angry with God, frustrated with God, but he's just trying to get you to a place of desperation because you've been stuck in the same old, stuck in routine, stuck in religion and not relationship, stuck in flesh. So now he has to get you to that desperate point where enough is enough, is enough, is enough. And in that desperate place, there has to be a change. There has to be a turnaround. There ain't no other choice. There has to be a breakthrough. It has to be a sure thing when you get to a desperate place. And what else happens in the desperate place? It ain't all bad, doom, and gloom. But in the desperate place is where God's glory can be shown. In the midst of turmoil, in my desperate place, there has to be glory that brings the light of day. There has to be glory that brings some peace. There has to be an opening that brings something different when I'm in my desperate place. And for Hannah, it was the opening of her mouth that his glory showed up for her. Sometimes we're looking for the glory, we're looking for the breakthrough, but we're keeping our mouths closed. We're mumbling, grumbling, and complaining, but we're blaming God because we don't see a change. But it's because our lips are sealed like we got a secret or something. Don't you know that God sees you every day? Don't you know that He hears your every thought? Don't you know that He's counted your days before the foundation of the world? So why would we be silent with God? But then guess what? We'll get on Facebook real quick, but then guess what? We'll text our homegirls real quick. But when will we open our mouths toward heaven? That's the only place that I need to show up when I'm desperate. First Samuel says that Hannah, she had a bitterness of soul. Now, it's one thing to be bitter, but when your soul is bitter, that's a different kind of thing. Not only was she bitter, but her soul was bitter. Her heart was bitter. Her thoughts was bitter. She was just at a place of bitterness. Now that's a deep despair. That's something that really hurt her. And it was only through her worship and relationship with God that the bitterness had an opportunity to break. You're sitting in your bitterness. You're living in your bitterness. Some of you sleep every night next to some bitterness, but you're not allowing God to hear you through your worship and a true, authentic relationship. Come on, you don't have to hold on to the bitterness. Now, sometimes we get a little confused and we say, you know, girl, I do worship, I do praise, but I'm still feeling a little bitter. But worship isn't the clapping of our hands all the time. Worship isn't the singing of the song. Worship isn't the bowing down of our heads. Worship is a different thing. It's the offering up to God, the very thing that is destroying us on the inside. Worship is being in a dwelling place with God that you can't step out of Him because He's all up in you and around you. Worship is when you have such a connection with the Father that nothing can intertwine with it. Nothing can cut it off. Nothing can disrupt it. There can't be no discord because I'm in worship with the Father. There's a divine connection with Him and I because I got a relationship. It's a thing different from what y'all folks got. I got a relationship with God. It's different. And what worship does is it causes God to allow us to rise above our issues. Now, the issues may not disappear in the blink of an eye, but my worship is allowing me to rise above my issues, to soar above my pain, to be able to think higher like He does and work it out and be able to stand even in the midst of it all because I'm worshiping. I'm letting Him dwell all up on the inside and around me because I'm worshiping. I gotta worship because I can't carry this anymore. Some of us, we're heavy, we're weighted, we're bogged down. We can't carry this anymore. Especially not on our back, especially not with our 2 feet, especially not with our 2 hands. We can't carry this anymore. So how do I let go of this heaviness? How do I shake off this weight? I do so by worship, because I can't birth like this. I can't push nothing out like this. I can't give God what he really wants of me like this, because I'm in despair, I'm bitter and I'm broken, I'm sad and I'm waiting. I can't do it like this. And when we were reading in 1 Samuel, it says that Hannah was provoked. She was taunted and she was teased. And it didn't stop there. It said to a place of being miserable. So people around Hannah, the same people who wanted to laugh and conversate with her and be buddy-buddy, they were provoking her. They knew that sore spot. They knew that the barrenness hurt her. They knew it was something she wasn't too cool with, but they provoked her in the place of her breakthrough. They provoked her. And who did it? It was Elkanah who questioned her. It was Peninnah that made fun of her in her face, not even behind her back. They made fun of her and they questioned her. He even said, aren't I enough? Aren't I better than having 10 sons? No, sir, you're not. You're not. But they still pushed her, even though they knew she was broken. But even in that, even in the provoking, she never lost her mind. She never had a place where she just gave up. She never had a place where she just gave in. She never had a place where she threw in the towel. Some of us go through things and it makes us want to lose our minds, but she was going through something and had someone picking on her at the same time, but she never lost her mind. Even though she felt miserable, she still didn't lose her mind. And instead of losing her mind, she let pain push her to the tabernacle. She let her pain push her to the tabernacle. Now, when you get pushed, you don't always have a choice in that thing. Sometimes someone just come up behind you and you just get pushed. And you just end up where you end up. But she let her pain push her to the tabernacle, because she was at such, once again, a desperate place. She made her way separate, a separate place from the people who were provoking her, from the people who were making fun of her, from the people who were picking on the barren thing about her. She separated herself from them. When are we going to separate ourselves from the same old foolishness? When are we going to step apart from the same old brokenness? When are we going to step away from that toxicity in our lives? When are we going to separate ourselves to get to another place? What is that place? The place of the tabernacle. Now you may be saying, we're in a pandemic. Not all the tabernacles are really open like that, or I'm not trying to go, but the tabernacle doesn't have to be the building. The tabernacle doesn't have to be the church. The tabernacle don't have to have a door, 4 walls, a floor, or a ceiling. That doesn't have to be the tabernacle. Now, what is the tabernacle? It was a place where she could create her own atmosphere for shift. A place where she could create her own atmosphere for shift. She didn't have to depend on the musicians. She didn't have to depend on the people on her row. She didn't have to depend on your hallelujah or your speaking in tongues. She didn't have to depend on your shouting, your dance. She didn't have to depend on the clapping of your hands. But she separated herself. She had to get away from all of the distraction, from all of the noise, from all of the hating, from all of the despair. She had to get away and separate herself so that she could feel the shift, a real shift created in her own atmosphere with who? With just her and God alone. You don't need everybody in your business for something to happen with you and God. You don't need every friend and every family member to know what's going on. It just was her and God in the tabernacle. And there it could be a great exchange with just her and the Lord. So when are you going to get to your tabernacle? When are you going to trade your sorrow for seed? Where is your tabernacle? Your tabernacle is on your knees. Where is my tabernacle? My tabernacle is in my prayer closet. Where is my tabernacle? My tabernacle is in the deliverance of my mindset. Where is my tabernacle? My tabernacle is in the opening of my mouth. Where is my tabernacle? My tabernacle is in my praise and my worship. Where is my tabernacle? My tabernacle is in my prayer life. Where is my tabernacle? My tabernacle is in my faith. Because I can't do it without him. My tabernacle would shift, it would crumble, it would fall if I didn't have God. If there was no relationship, the tabernacle place is in the opening of your mouth. Hannah, she had to realize the power and the significance of her seed. The power and the significance of her fruit. Even in her barren place, she still had to have the realization of the power that her seed would hold. There was faith in that thing, because something she didn't even have yet. She had to realize how much significance it really held. And God needed Hannah to see, to know, to feel the blessing of breaking the pain she'd been experiencing for so long. He had greater intentions and greater purpose for the closure of her womb. Some things are closed unto us. We feel like our finances are closed. We feel like our love life is closed. We feel like our family relationships are closed. We feel like there's closures on our jobs. There's just closures in our life. But God has a greater purpose and a greater intention for the closure. The closure doesn't always mean you're going the wrong way. The closure doesn't always mean the wrong route. The closure isn't always a negative or a bad thing, but there's a blessing in the closure. It was in the closing that opened her up to a place of destiny. It was through being at her breaking point. It was from her being at her tired point. She just couldn't be that way anymore. It just wasn't good enough for her anymore. It just didn't feel right anymore. She just couldn't live another day with that barrenness anymore. She got tired. Are you tired? Are you weary? Are you shaken? You're at your breaking point. And Hannah caused God to trust her. Now, how did he trust her? Because even before God blessed her with her son, she said, God, I promise I'll give him back to you. Even before she got to enjoy the own fruit of her labor, even before she got to enjoy the thing she longed for, even before she got to enjoy what she was being provoked and teased and taunted about, she said, God, I promise I'll give them back to you. If you bless me with it, I'll give it back to you. Sometimes we're still struggling because God can't trust us. He can't trust us if he puts something in our womb. Because either we want to hold it in or we want to push too quick. He can't trust us if he gives us fruit. Because either we give it away, we eat it too soon, we let it spoil. He can't trust us. He's saying, will you give it back to me? I gave you some anointing. Will you give it back to me? I gave you some deliverance. Will you give it back to me? I gave you a breakthrough. Will you give it back to me? I gave you some joy. Will you give it back to me? I gave you some peace. Will you give it back to me? I gave you some comfort. Will you give it back to me? I gave you some finance. Will you give it back to me? here she said, God, first, I need you to look on my affliction. Look on my affliction. See what's going on right now in my womb. See what this pain feels like. Look at what I'm going through. First, look at my affliction. Then remember me. Now, it's not that she thought that God had not remembered her, but she just reminded him, God, remember me. This is Hannah. Some verses say, your maid servant. Look and remember me. Remember me. Don't forget me. Don't leave me out. Don't forsake me. Don't do everything for everybody else. They're all getting married. They're all getting blessed. They're all elevating. Their churches are booming and blossoming. Remember me. Don't forget me. And then after that, after you look on my affliction, after you remember me, after you don't forget me, bless me. Because now you can trust me. Bless me. And guess what I'll do? I won't gloat about it. I won't flash it on Instagram. But after you bless me, I'll return it back to you.
Wow. Wasn't that a powerful message? Listen, call that number on the screen. There are people that are waiting to pray for you. And if you call that number, they will listen to all of your concerns and they will take it before the Lord. I know that this word spoke to a lot of you out there. Call that number that's on the screen. Let us know how the word helped you. Don't forget to watch next week. Tell your family and your friends. We have another special guest, another powerful person of God that's going to bring forth a mighty word.
Next time on Ministry Spotlight.
This battle is not yours. You don't need to fight it. But yet we find ourselves fighting a battle that God has already won for us. We go out and try to fight against the enemy. And God said, it's not your turn. We go out and try to handle the situation. And God said, I didn't tell you to do that. I told you to wait right here. Wait until I tell you what to do. Wait until I give you a strategy. It's not your time right now. So when they wanted to destroy their enemies, Ammon and Moab, God says, wait a little while. They waited 1 year. They waited another year. They waited one generation. They waited another generation. Almost 10 generations later, here comes their enemies. We want to take what you got. We want to take what God has given you. Let me tell you something. You can't take an enemy. The enemy can't take from you what God has given to you. He can't take from you what God has blessed you with.